this is kind of the news of the week, really. Obviously Guy Reffitt being found guilty. Just what's your response to him being found guilty, and do you agree that he should have been convicted in this case?
Well, I don't know if that's not my place to say. I wasn't the jury. I would say that it would be a difficult case to defend.
As far as testify against Reffitt, what went into that decision-making process for you to testify against Reffitt, and would you have testified against him if you didn't have an immunity deal in place?
Well, it wasn't something that I wanted to do or planned to do. I just, was subpoenaed, and I was a little concerned about, well, wow, what if I got up there and say something? What's he going to do to me? And so that immunity agreement was created, and I signed it.
I guess on that, I mean, what exactly, can you tell me what the conditions are of your immunity deal are? Is it still possible for you to possibly be charged later on? As I read it, it's a partial immunity. Can you just kind of explain
Yeah,
that?
I think it's called transactional immunity, and basically, when I'm asked questions, they said, don't worry about if you're going to incriminate yourself in anything. Anything you say, we're not going to charge you as long as it's related to this. But the main stipulation is I have to tell the truth. I can't lie. Say if you lie, then you just killed your deal and you're subject to just about anything. Now they also said that anything outside of this, if you've ever done anything outside of this, and that's not covered under the agreement.
And so, I guess I want to move towards the day of January 6th. What exactly was your involvement on January 6th? Did you go inside the Capitol? What exactly did you do on that day?
Okay. Well, my purpose for going there was to be counted. It felt like it was a historical event. And I just couldn't not go there and be counted. And I don't normally go to those things. But I went there. I wandered through the crowd. I took pictures. I made videos. I made comments on my videos. I was up near the Capitol. And then when I finished, I went back to my hotel room.
As far as when you were out there, could you sense how things were escalating?
Yeah. See, when I first went up there, my preconceived idea was people would listen to the president, and then, everybody knew after he speaks, we're going to go to the Capitol, and, we're going to be there. There's nothing implied beyond that I'm aware of. So, the president and other people were speaking. I can't really hear very well anyway, so I just kind of tuned it out, and I'm interested in the people I'm taking pictures of. Then the whole crowd, like a herd, just starts gradually moving toward the Capitol. So we go up to the Capitol, and as I'm getting closer, I looked at the back side of the wall, and it looked like little spiders crawling up the walls. I could see people climbing up. I said, "Wow, man, these guys are, trying to get in the building." And so I got closer. I took pictures, and I actually touched the back of the wall just to say I touched the wall. And but I looked up. I saw snipers at the top. I saw police over where there's a scaffolding. There's a guy that got pushed off, and I was there when he got carted out. I was right up at the barriers, and nobody was trying to cross the barriers. But this guy gets carted out on a barrier used as a way to, as a stretcher. Mm-hmm. Anyway, some Capitol Police, they come out of the trees and they line up, and somebody said, "All right, get ready, they're forming up." And the Capitol Police just did like this. And after they backed away from the barriers, and then people started shaking the barriers and pushing them down. Now I took riot control training in the military. That's not something you normally do. When you're riot control, you have batons or whatever you have, you don't back away from the barriers. That's like an invitation, to cross the barriers when you do that. And that's what it seemed like. So I was there, I recorded that. I actually but I spoke to the Capitol Police in riot gear. I felt kind of sorry for them. If I were in their shoes, I'd be terrified. I would be, because if you look, I've got photographs where as far as you can see in Washington, there's human beings. It's like a sea that never ends.
I know reports indicate that during your testimony that you did reveal that both you and Reffitt were in the car. Y'all had guns, y'all had zip tie handcuffs. Yeah. I guess, why did you bring those? What was your intention behind bringing those?
The idea was that if this is what was happening in the summer with all this violence we saw, What are we going to see in D.C.? We didn't know what to expect. And we were concerned for our safety. And we're concerned for the safety of other people around us. So we said, you know, we actually used the term, it's better to be judged by a jury of 12 than carried by 6. And that means basically, you can violate a handgun law and you'll eventually get out of jail. But if you get killed, you're not coming back. It's permanent, you know? And so we weren't going to put violence on other people. We were going with the guns. We were there to protect ourselves and possibly somebody else. Like if somebody's trying to firebomb a policeman with a Molotov cocktail, I couldn't stand by and watch somebody light somebody on fire. I couldn't do that, you know?
Did it cross your mind to use any of that when, you know, I guess you saw the crowd kind of advance towards the Capitol and start making it in at that point?
Oh, no, never. I mean, the idea of using a handgun on somebody for offensive purposes is, you know, I would never do that.
But you mentioned obviously bringing, you know, the guns and the zip ties as almost a defensive measure in case you saw violence break out.
Yeah.
I mean, did you just not, because I know a number of police officers were assaulted there. Was that not a situation?
Well, I didn't bring the zip ties. You know, I didn't even know about them until we're getting ready that morning. He says, here's these. And I said, what are these? He said, well, these are in case, you know, we have to detain anybody. And I had no concept of what that would be. I mean, I thought, what if there's a violence going on and we have to, you know, subdue somebody, so, you know, in the crowd or something. And then as we're walking along, we have 2 American flags. I said, what are these for? He said, oh, can you carry these? So I ended up carrying 2 flags all day long. But you know, as far as any scenarios, you know, like for instance, the long guns, the ARs. There was no specific scenario in mind. It was just like, you know, they're here in case. The handguns were just in case we had to defend ourselves. If you got 5 or 10 people and you're one person and they're trying to hurt you, what are you going to do? Be a victim? Are you going to get your head beat in? That's it. But we're not going to go out there and play Army or something. I mean, that would be stupid. But it's mostly, I carry a handgun for self-defense, for personal self-defense. I believe that it's my responsibility. The police can't be everywhere. They're not going to protect me. They can't. It's not possible. So I have to protect myself, first with my hands, and if I can't do it with my hands, then I use a weapon. And that's something a person should never really want to do. That's kind of like when you use a weapon against somebody for self-defense, you've basically had a catastrophic failure of your ability to defend yourself, either because you're overwhelmed or you don't know how.
Was there any talks of, because I know you had a number of people who've been either accused or charged when talking about making threats about Nancy Pelosi. Was that something that came up in the car ride, or just
Well, we
talking
were
about?
joking around. You know, a lot of people talk BS, you know, and so forth. Just because you talk stuff doesn't mean necessarily that that's what you're going to do. I mean, people talk stuff all the time. They don't go out and do it. But we're in the car driving, and he said, yeah, we're going to have to drag those people out, you know, get them out of, you know, those traitors and stuff like that. That's a paraphrasing.
Yeah. Those people being the congressmen and congresswomen and senators.
Yeah, he said, yeah, we're going to drag them down, and then I don't remember exactly what was said, but I had this visual picture. You know, she's coming down, being dragged down the stairs, and her head's hitting each step, going boom, 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 and you know, we joked about that. We kind of laughed about it because because the visual that was there from that conversation.
Were you worried that that was a possibility that was going to happen?
Not particularly. See, I've watched the news media in the past, and you know, you hear this special report, somebody tried to get near the Capitol and then he got shot. Secret Service shot him. I never thought anybody would ever get into the Capitol building. I know I hear people say, yeah, we're going to go and we're going to get them out and we're going to do this and that. I thought we were going to go up and surround the Capitol building and be there, and I had this naive notion that the people in the Capitol were going to look out the window and they're going to look as far as they can see, and there's human beings that supported President Trump, and say, you know, that's a significant amount of people. Maybe we need to look at this. we as common Americans, we don't know what goes on, how that works. This is something that's kind of we don't. There's no roadmap for how to deal with stuff like this because this is the first time around, and so we just hear these little rumors about how things are supposed to happen inside the Capitol, and we thought, a lot of us did, that we're going to be out there, and then somehow we're going to change the narrative by so many people being there. But then you go to find out they're not even aware that we're out there. They're busy doing what they're doing. I said, they wouldn't have seen us anyway. It's a waste of time.
I want to now move a little bit towards your relationship with Mr. Reffitt. I mean, can you describe what your relationship was with Mr. Reffitt, not only before the legal processes, but also before y'all's trip to Washington, D.C.?
Yeah. Well, we had met through a group. You know, some people call them a militia. They didn't call themselves that. It was called the Texas 3 Percenters. And so I was looking for somebody, an organization or a group of people that, you know, I could call and say, hey, I need some help. And so I found them through a process. You know, there was like the State Guard, and there's this kind of militia. I didn't want that.
You have a number of websites dedicated to, you know, hate groups, calling them, you know, obviously an anti-government militia type group. Were you aware of their reputation before joining them, and what was your role within that, I guess, organization or whatever word we want to use to call them?
Well, other than what I've seen in the news media, only thing when people say the term militia, I hear about these people off in the woods somewhere, and then the FBI is going to get them for something. But my role was as a comms officer. So you had this guy that was the state leader, and then I would be like his lieutenant or something like that. But my specialty was about communications and radios and so forth, radios and communications. I tried to create some kind of procedure, how you do things. You know, I created a website so that people could get information so they don't have to call this one guy all the time who doesn't have time to answer. But I didn't have any conception that they were hateful people. I wouldn't have joined them if they were.
People who either self-proclaimed that they were part of, you know, 3 Percenters nationally or whatever. I know there have been a number of violent incidents as far as when it comes to like shootings or fire bombings. Were you unaware of that?
No, I'm not aware of that.
Okay.
I have I'm pretty busy in my life. I have a very narrow focus. Maybe not as narrow as sometimes I think, because I was focusing on work and I was focusing on this. And but I don't have a lot of time for social activities, and I just have certain things that I research in my work, and then this interest. I'm interested in the political situation of the country.
Right. I guess I kind of want to move back to sort of January 6th and kind of the lead up. But I mean, I guess considering you know, what you discussed with Reffitt, plus, you know, some of the things that you brought over there. I mean, how is it possible, I guess, to be unaware of how this could possibly escalate the way it did?
That's an interesting question, because I didn't think about that going up there, but I specifically have a video that I made, and I'm at the back wall and I'm looking what's going on. I said, you know, this could get dangerous really fast. I said, people need to be very smart about what they're doing, because this could get out of control. So I began to see that when I was close on the back side, and I just think that, you know, people need to be careful, you know.
Back to the legal process at hand, obviously, you know, we mentioned, and we kind of brought this up at the beginning, jury found Reffitt guilty on all counts. Now, I'm, you know, looking at the court documents, specifically the complaint, it showed that Reffitt, you know, threatened his family when he got back, as far as to not, you know, talk to police about this. Were you ever afraid that he would do the same to you, or did he? Did he make any sort of threats to you or any other members?
No, he's never made any threats to me. I met his family. You know, I was inside his home. The night that we came back, or the day or night we came back, I went inside his home. I'd met his wife, actually got to talk to her. She's very nice. I think he has 2 daughters. I think I met one of them. She's very nice. He introduced me to his son, and his son seemed very nice. I knew that they had political differences, but his son was very congenial, you know.
Is it surprising that, you know, his son really became a key witness here, turned his father in and everything?
Well, I feel kind of sad for that kind of situation with the family. You know, I saw his interview on CNN, and I know that he said he was afraid for his, you know, his dad said some things he probably shouldn't have said. You know, I don't think that anybody should have said what he did say. He's never hurt his kids. I've never heard anything that he did, and I don't know, he seemed to have a pretty decent family life. But his son, he and his son, they were kind of, didn't see eye to eye, and there seems to be, I think he was closer, I think Mr. Reffitt was closer to his wife and daughters maybe at that time than he was with his son. And during all this process of waiting for the trial, I didn't really look him up. I wasn't thinking about that, and I actually didn't want to think about it. And so it wasn't until I started looking him up that I started learning a few things.
I want to get back to your testimony. We don't have the transcripts; those won't be available for quite a while.
Sure.
But I guess, what was your mindset during your testimony when you were up on the stand? What was going through your head? Was it fear? Was it a feel of obligation? Obviously, given your immunity deal, what was going through your head there?
Well, there's a lot that went through my head. First of all, it was embarrassing to have a visit by the FBI. It's not something I ever thought would happen in my life. When I was going up there, I wasn't expecting anything was going to come out of it, or it was going to be totally anonymous. And so when I'm going to testify, the main thing the prosecutor, the U.S. Assistant U.S. Attorney reminded me, we went over the agreement. She says, you understand this? I said, yes. She said, you understand that this immunity deal could be taken away if you lie? I said, yes, I do. She said, you're not on trial. You don't have to be afraid that we're going to use anything against you, but you can't say anything that's going to try to protect him, and you also can't say anything that's going to try to hurt him. And so I have to stay right in the middle. And when the U.S. Attorney was asking me questions, there was times that I was like really wrapped in a knot because I didn't know how to answer. It's almost like I was trying to split hairs because I wanted to give an accurate answer, and I had to work through some things just so I could relax a little bit to give an answer. And so when I got into the courtroom, I'm nervous that I'm going to say something and then somebody's going to say, "Oh, look, he lied," and then I'm screwed.
Do you regret at all testifying? Are you afraid of any retaliation for testifying against a fellow 3%er?
Well, first of all, I feel like I answered pretty much. They didn't ask me questions they didn't already have answers to. Okay, so they asked me questions, and most of it, yes, no, that's correct, and so forth. I didn't put any opinion into it. I just basically said, this is the facts. And I feel sad that I had to testify against him, but I didn't try to get into the building. So that's kind of the way they look at it. I stayed outside. He went inside. That was his choice. I put myself in the position I'm in. I take full responsibility for what I did. Okay? And he has to take responsibility for what he did. He believes in what he did, and I'm not going to judge that or take it away or anything like that. I didn't feel happy being there. I wasn't happy at all. It's very uncomfortable. And do I have concerns? Yes, I do. I didn't understand the gravity of this until just a few days before. I just thought, I'm going to go testify and it's going to be over with and I'll be on my way. I didn't realize, because I haven't been following it, that this was the first trial and this was going to set the pace for everything else. Now there's about 700 or 800 other people they're going to get tried, and they're going to use this as the example. There's going to be some unhappy people, and now because I'm in the media, there could be somebody come look me up, and who knows do what.
Do you think you could have gotten charged for your involvement, or do you believe, hey, FBI comes to use me to get possibly a quote unquote bigger fish in Mr. Reffitt?
Well, I think I could have been charged with something. Yes.
Do you think you should have been?
Well, if I'm going to be honest, yes. If I'm going to be honest about it, and I think we should be honest, Am I gonna, the fact that I didn't get arrested, am I gonna go wish myself to have been arrested? No, I'm not. But I took a risk, and Mr. Reffitt took a risk, and we thought about it, and we said, we're going to have to be responsible for what we do. And I believe that everybody in society needs to be responsible. But, I didn't ask for an immunity thing. That wasn't my goal. I was issued a subpoena, and I was really concerned. And my attorney says, well, let's see what we can do here. And so, they say, well, here it is. And it's not really, he explained it to me. He says, it's not like blanket immunity or anything. It's very specific. And I was nervous. I signed it, but I was nervous. And I was pretty upset for a long time. I have nightmares at night.
Given that, and knowing what you know now, if you could go back, would you join the Texas 3%ers all over again? Would you go to D.C. for January 6th?
I think I would have stayed home and watched TV that day. In retrospect, I'm my life is going to be kind of messed up forever now, pretty much, and his is too. So I think I would do things differently, and even if I continued to go up there, I would have liked things to turn out different for everybody. I think we should have or would have made different decisions.
Why talk to the media now?
There's a couple of reasons. There's people that probably say, well, he's a traitor. He turned on his buddy there or something like that. I didn't volunteer to do that. If I had a choice, I wouldn't have been there. I felt like I had no choice. I want people to understand a different side of things.